Hello everyone, and welcome to our second part of our podcast.
So, what's a fun fact that most people don't know about you?
Firstly, thank you for this opportunity, Henry, and thank you for joining today. I think what I would say firstly about myself, and something that people might not know, is that was quite lucky growing up being able to live in different countries. So as part of my dad's job, I moved around a little bit. So I lived in Tunisia when I was very young. And when I was older, when about 17 years old, I moved to Abu Dhabi. So I think from that experience, I was able to see what it was like at an international school from the other side. And, you know, teaching here in Dubai, that's given me the opportunity to have an understanding of what it's like for students who come from a diverse range of backgrounds and don't necessarily, haven't necessarily lived in one place all their lives. So, I've been able, to have that opportunity to travel. Growing up, my grandparents were all Irish as well. So obviously I've grew up mainly in the UK in between those times abroad. But I've had that time and, that diverse opportunities that's really helped me have an understanding of the students here.
And are there any teachers from your school days that you think really impacted you?
So, quite funny story really. I didn't do GCSE history. So when I was in year 9, we had to choose our options. I didn't choose history, and the reason was because I didn't get on with the teacher. And looking back, that was probably a mistake, and that's something I say to all my year 9 students. So when I got to choose my A-level options, I realised by that point in time, having done my GCSEs, that history was something I quite liked outside of school. So it was moving from, going into year 12 and doing history at a brand new school, and that was in Abu Dhabi. Had 3 excellent teachers there, and they really, ignited my passion for history, something I hadn't done at GCSE and something I hadn't had, a great opportunity with before. And if it weren't for those, I had 3 teachers, and if it wasn't for those teachers, I probably wouldn't have gone on to do history at university and then become a history teacher myself. So that had a massive impact, I would say, on not just, my schooling, but my life afterwards as well.
So, given you're a history teacher, what historical figure would you like to talk to and why?
It's always a really hard question as a history teacher, because especially going from year 7 all the way up to year 13 next year, we study a wide range of topics. So, it's something I'm often asked and something I have to think about. I'd probably say someone like Nelson Mandela. There's lots of inspirational figures from history, but I think his story and what he did to, stand up for what he believed in, the bravery that he showed, was massively important. So, meeting him and, trying to understand how he, overcame, the massive barriers and massive adversities, standing up for his life at different points and spending 27 years in captivity, that would have been something, a massive opportunity to have a conversation with him. That would be incredible. But like I said, it's a very difficult question.
Yes, he does have a great story. And if you weren't a history teacher, what do you think your job would be? My other passion, or interest outside of history and school, is politics. So always something. If it wasn't to be a teacher, it would be involved within politics in some ways or another. And maybe not necessarily a politician speaking, or as an MP, but working within it and having that understanding of how elections work and how political parties operate. It's something that I'm quite interested in, and working in some way in politics would be something that would be the other option, I would say. Yes, I'd also like to work in politics when I grow up. So, what's the most memorable memory you've had as a teacher?
Again, really tough question. Lots of different memories. I suppose it's hard to necessarily pinpoint one event. I think as a secondary teacher, you've got a benefit of often teaching students right from year 7, and if you stay at school long enough, all the way until they reach 6th form. So for me, it's about seeing the progression of some of the students. So, for example, some of our year 9 students now, I was a form tutor from year 7. So really, it's about seeing their growth and students achieving their potential in that way as well. Also, exam results day are always quite a proud moment when you see students that have overcome different struggles and just trying to make that impact really as well. So not necessarily one memorable event. Something else that we've been involved in this year, and I know you've obviously been involved with, Henry, is our debating club. So we have in school MUN, but we've also took part in external competition. So this year we had a debate against school from the UK, well, different schools from the UK, about Winston churches. So there were historical debates, and it was really memorable. I was really proud to see sort of the growth of our students in terms of their articulation and their presentation skills. So that would be sort of this year's memorable moment. But again, it's really hard to pinpoint one exact point.
So moving away from the personal questions, and it's been great to know you better. So let's move on to some more professional questions. So why did you decide to become a teacher?
So I touched upon earlier about history and how sort of my passion for that was ignited in school and when I did my A-levels, and moving on to my degree, it was really difficult to know exactly what path to take. And I think initially I wanted to do something where I could carry on doing history or learning about history in one way or another, and I thought teaching history would be one way to, whereas every day I could carry on with those studies. So at that age, at the age of 21, 22, I wasn't quite ready to to completely finish doing history as part of my job. So that was part of it. When I finished university, I went to work as a teaching assistant because I wasn't necessarily sure that it was the right path for me. And once I started doing that and seeing what it was like day to day, supporting young people and trying to motivate them, that really helped me in terms of having an understanding of this is what I want to do and making that difference and making that impact.
Oh, that's great. We should always aspire to keep on learning. So speaking of learning and teaching, how do you think your teaching style has changed throughout your career as a teacher?
That's a tricky one. I think it always depends on different contexts of where you are, and obviously with experience you become more familiar with what it takes to teach a good lesson and have a stronger impact on students. I think initially my teaching, when I was teaching in the UK, it was potentially more of an instructional type basis, where it was very much teacher-led lessons. And I think over time, especially in Regent, our community, there's a big focus on facilitated learning, so ensuring students have different options, and particularly with project-based learning, so putting students at the heart and centre of what they do. So, for example, this year within history, we have different projects in Key Stage 3 looking at medieval castles, the Kingdom of Mali, and USA, the 1920s. So I think in terms of how that's changed, it's about our students being at the centre of what they do.
That's lovely. And of course, you love teaching, but that does come with some challenges. So what are some of the biggest challenges you have faced as a teacher?
I think it's when you have students that aren't necessarily interested in your subject, and especially when it comes to year 9 and an options year. So students will choose their GCSE options, let's say in January, and if they've not chosen history and they don't have an interest in history, it's hard to keep them going and keeping them engaged. So for me, it's just about trying to share my passion for the subject and trying to bring the subject to life as much as possible. So at the moment, in summer term, we've been learning about the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and students making videos and being more interactive. So trying to overcome that challenge really, and just increasing that passion and making sure that students, even if they say they don't like history, they get something out of the lesson, they enjoy it.
And so how do you stay updated with the latest teaching methods? Because I'm sure when you started teaching and now, the way that people teach and the way that you teach has changed. So how do you stay updated?
Using different online resources really, so whether it be academic articles linked to the teaching of history, or even social media, so places like X are really important in terms of sharing educational leaders sharing their own methods and best practices, and also just working with the colleagues within the school, so seeing different lessons, not just history or geography or other humanities subjects, but just seeing what else is going on, and us teachers sharing our best practice.
And so finally, what would you tell someone who is considering to become a teacher? What experiences would you like to give to them? What kind of advice would you like to pass on?
I think, especially with teaching, you have to love it, you have to enjoy it in order for it to be the right job for you. I've seen many people that go into teaching maybe not necessarily sure it's the right path. if it's not going to work. So I think really just making sure, you know, my advice to anyone thinking about it, get some experience in the classroom, see what, you know, how you interact with that. If you don't enjoy it, it's not for you, and if you do, then it can be the best job in the world. So really just making sure that it's the right thing for you, and you know, making sure that, you know, you know what you want to do.
Yeah, and of course, that's in the best interest for yourself and, of course, for the students.
Absolutely. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Henry.